folks, how's it going? Cam's here with another episode of Quoth the Camser. You're going to get some background noise here. I'm feeling inspired whilst doing some household chores. So I'm just finishing off the dishes and I've got to empty the bins and all that fun stuff. Then I'll get the dogs out and then I'll work on my plan for the day. Quite an interesting plan, I think, but what I've been thinking about this morning is time. Well, we've been watching Dark on Netflix, a German TV show, sort of sci-fi time travel-y thing, and it's stupendous. Thoroughly enjoying that show, although it does require a little bit of Wikipedia research, because there's a lot of people in it, and sometimes twice at different ages. So yeah, time. I've published a fair few pieces of content this week and I've created some more footage. So in that respect, it's been a great week. I'm not getting to all the content that I would like to get to in terms of publishing. And I know I've mentioned this before. A part of it, I think, is about expectation. I need to try and have some more realistic expectations and acknowledge my lack of skill, although that's kind of putting myself down a bit. I should be thinking rather that I haven't yet sped up the workflow. Sped up, I think. And so when I sit down to do something, there's very rarely an occasion where I don't have to Google something about Premiere Pro, how to do certain things, you know. And part of my sort of education and upskilling and all that is going to be watching other people's content. I am actually considering doing a course perhaps on lynda.com or somewhere like that on Premiere Pro, because I know that there are a lot of things I'm not doing that would speed things up. Same sort of thing I did with Studio One, which is my audio recording, my digital audio workstation software. I find that a strange name for it, DAW, because that conjures up in my mind the actual hardware workstation rather than the software, but that's what it's called. What's your DAW? Cubase, Studio One, you know, the whole list. Anyway, when I was doing the album that I recorded for North Country Winters, which was my bluegrass band, a couple of years ago now, I spent at least 6 months going through tutorials. I was listening to Joe Gilder and Graham Cochrane's content, doing their dueling mixes, which was it still is, it's a course that they offer where they provide all of the multi-track instruments and vocals, etc., and you then publish it yourself. You do your own mix and you learn as you do it, and that was an incredibly useful way to learn, because both Joe and Graham would put together a video of how they themselves mixed it, and basically I would watch Joe's because he used Studio One, and I would mimic what he did until I got the skills to do it myself. So I haven't done anything like that for Premiere Pro, not since, let me think, maybe 2004. When Freya was born, I had a Sony DV cam. Yeah, it was the Sony DV cam. It shot on DV tapes. And at that time I had a FireWire card in my PC, which itself was quite unusual. They were mainly Mac interfaces, but you could get PCI cards for PC with FireWire, so I did that, and my friend Arjun worked at the time for Adobe, and he brought me over some, what was it called, Classroom in a Book? I think it was called that. Total Training, perhaps. I can't remember which one it was, but he brought me over some training materials for Premiere Pro, and I had a can't even remember the version that it was, way before CC anyway. And I learned how to use an NLE, non-linear editor, and I really enjoyed doing it. You could hook up your DV recorder, your camera, over Firewire, and then you could use the software to rewind and pick your in points and out points. So you didn't actually have to have the whole file on your computer. And it was quite remarkable at the time. I really enjoyed doing it. But that was the last time I did really any training other than looking up YouTube videos to find specific requirements. The other thing I'm doing is watching likes of Gerald Undone. I watch a lot of his stuff, and he does a lot of tutorial stuff. But there's also things he does where I'm like, how did he do that? So that sets off the rabbit hole of trying to figure things out. It's an interesting learning curve, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, but as I said, it is holding me back a little bit when it comes to content creation. So that's really what I've been thinking about. It's just the whole time management thing and expectations. But as long as I can put out content each day, even just one thing, then I'm on the right track. One thing I've realised I'm not getting to that I would really like to is my own Acoustic Guitar I.O. podcast. The last one I did was Mike Dawes, and I published that maybe even a month ago now. And I've got quite a few really, well, I think they're good interviews. Clive Carroll, Tom Sands and Daisy Tempest, and Dan Byrne. So they're in the can, and I would really like to get one out this weekend. So where are we? Saturday morning, 10:25. Dogs aren't walked yet, but the kitchen's all sorted out, just about, just the bins to do, and then clean up the garden. You know what I mean? We've got 2 dogs, so some of that to do. And then figure out, well, I've got to do some Crofters content because I get paid for that, so I can do 2 hours of that. So my plan there is to make a YouTube introduction video for Crofters. I filmed Ilana yesterday, just doing a short chat, which I can turn into an introduction and hopefully add some B-roll and a bit of background music. So that might take around an hour, even though it shouldn't, but you know, as I said, skills and learning and all that. Nice cup of coffee here. So once I get that done, I think I'll jump straight into the Clive Carroll interview and try and get that published today. It shouldn't take all that long. I've got a reasonable workflow now with that, using a multicam shoot in Premiere Pro. I watched Premiere Gal on YouTube, and she had a really nice video on how to do that in Premiere Pro, create a multicam timeline and use the number keys to switch cameras. It's a really nice workflow actually. So I'll try and get that done. I've got 2 days. I've got 2 days to get that out, and no plans for the weekend to go anywhere really, other than walking the dogs. Next week's going to be a bit more challenging because we've got some visitors coming. My wife's parents are coming for a week, and so I'll be going in to cover the post office, I think, for 2 days. So there won't be any chance to do any content on those days. So I really need to try and at least get the Crofters work done in the evenings. Speaking of evenings, they're still quite busy. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I'm a member of the local Masonic Lodge and Royal Arch chapter, and we're doing practices at the moment. I'm currently in the chair of the Royal Arch chapter, which basically means I'm the top man, and so there's no way I can skip the practices. Besides which, the thing that we're practicing for is a week today. So we really need to knuckle down and make sure that we've got all the rehearsals done. So we'll be rehearsing for that Tuesday night and Friday night. Monday night there's a Masonic Lodge practice, but I can probably skip that because, you know, that meeting isn't until October, so it's still a bit early. Wednesday nights is usually my AA meeting nights, and I've missed the last two through work commitments and falling asleep. Yes, the joys of being 47. So I'm going to be out 3 nights, I think, but the in-laws are here and there's probably going to be dinners and things like that. So I suppose when I talked about expectations, right, rather than get resentful and annoyed that I'm not getting my content done because of life's getting in the way, I just have to acknowledge that that is what life is. Lower my expectations a little and be the best me that I can be. My in-laws are elderly and they're coming a heck of a long way. They live in Cornwall, so it's a good 9-hour trip by car. Oh, they're flying up. I think they're flying to Edinburgh. Or is it Glasgow? I don't actually know. So, you know, just giving them some time without resentment and supporting my wife, because it is quite a challenge entertaining and looking after 2 elderly parents. So yeah, there you go. Talking into the mic has helped me to come to that realisation that I should not be resentful about spending time with family. Never, ever, ever should I be that way. And sometimes it creeps in, you know, to be honest about it, transparent. That can happen. And it's something I'm working on, you know. Family's everything to me, and it's something that sometimes you need to make yourself see and not wait till something bad happens and then have regrets, you know. That's my message for today. Wow, that got deep there. But that's one of the joys I'm finding about riffing into the microphone, is that, you know, I keep using the words mental health, but that's really a big part of what I'm doing here. It's talking through my thoughts on tape and publishing it. You know, I just find it quite cathartic and useful. So I don't know if anybody, I think at the moment we've got 2 downloads for the last couple of publications I've done. One of them will be me, because I do download it into my Overcast app on my iPhone, just to listen through and see that it sounds okay. Speaking of which, if you find that there's a lot of long pauses between my phrases, which is just tends to be my natural way of speaking, so rather than ums and ahs, I tend to pause and speak quite slowly. In the Overcast app, there's actually a feature called Smart Speed, and what that does is it cuts out the gaps between talking automatically, and I use that on all my podcasts that I listen to, of which there are many. One day I might go through a show where I talk about the ones that I listen to. I'll just mention my favourite one at the moment is Roadwork with Dan Benjamin and John Roderick, including the Roadwork bonus episode that's accessible if you subscribe to their Patreon. Boy, that show really helps in so many ways. John Roderick is probably the guy I'd like most to meet in the whole world. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, the Smart Speed feature in Overcast is really useful at cutting out the long gaps. So if you are listening to this and you want to get through it a little quicker, cut out my pauses, then that's a good way to go. I'd recommend that you try that out. Made by Marco Arment, who's a guy that I've been listening to for quite a long time on podcasts. Still do, in fact. He's on ATP, Accidental Tech podcast with John Siracusa and Casey. I was going to say Casey Neistat there. Casey, can't remember his second name. Fancy that. So, yeah, listen to download Overcast and give it a try, see what you think. So, that's me done my duties. I'm going to finish my coffee, walk the dogs, and get on with some Crofters content, followed by, hopefully, some acoustic guitar I/O content. Thanks for listening, folks. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye for now.